Listen to the vibes.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Vibes, and I'd love to welcome here Amani Roberts. Now, Amani is a DJ, a music producer, podcaster, educator, and a business professional. So we're going to get to know him, have a great conversation. Amani, tell us a little bit more about you.
All right. Well, thanks for having me, Kyle. I'm excited to be here. A little bit more about me. I grew up in the Washington, D.C. area. I'm a lover of pancakes. I love my D.C. area sports teams. And yeah, that's something quick about me besides what you read in my bio.
Well, tell me about being a DJ.
Yeah, being a DJ for now over 18 years, DJed all across the world. It's a very interesting profession. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of work too behind the scenes.
And if I read correctly, it was Biz Markie who got you kind of interested in that?
Yes, I saw him a long time ago, may he rest in peace, at a club in DC. And when I saw him, I was like, ooh, I want to do what he does. But initially, I didn't think it was a legitimate career, so I didn't really pursue it. But I kept kind of watching from afar. And finally, when I moved to Los Angeles is when I went for it. And that's when I started to DJ.
I also read about you using live streaming and podcasting and DJing to maybe help grow business and bring in more clientele. Expand on that.
Yeah. Especially during the pandemic, I spent a lot of time live streaming on like Twitch and then later on like YouTube. And so I do think that that's like a legitimate form, another marketing avenue that some businesses might not use like they could use. Nowadays, the people are getting to a little more with all the different platforms. But back then, that was a really, really valuable platform and just a strategy to get in front of clients and to show the more human side of your business.
When all this podcasting and everything got started, I remember the talk was that this was a fad, it was going to go away, but I see it growing and growing more and more every day. And to be quite honest with you, I probably spend more time watching YouTube videos and listening to podcasts than I do watching television.
Yeah, I would say you're not alone. I think podcasting continues to grow as it becomes more common, as people hear more about it, and as more people try to create their own podcasts, it just continues to grow. And it might, I don't know if it will replace radio, but it'll definitely kind of serve as some people's radio.
Right. Now, how is DJing going to help someone grow their business?
I think you can take a look at if you take a DJ set from like 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. and you look at the different time slots and what happens during a DJ set. For example, say like it's 11 p.m. and there's something that goes wrong in the DJ booth. That's like troubleshooting. You have to figure out what's going wrong, but the music can never stop. And the same thing in business is that maybe you start off your business and you thought that you would have a certain product that would be very popular to sell. But in essence, it's a different service that you offered kind of, a la carte that's actually more popular. So how do you shift or pivot, as we say, but you still have to keep the business going? And that's very, very similar to kind of DJing. Then maybe, at midnight, it's peak hours. So you're just trying to keep the dance floor packed as a DJ hit after hit. When business, you're trying to grow sales, week over week, month over month, year over year. How do you keep the momentum going? And just keep the clients continue to come in, new clients, retaining clients. So retaining clients is very similar to keeping people on the dance floor. So there's definitely lots of parallels there.
I've been doing this for quite a few years, and I've definitely come a long way from the beginning. And I'm growing, but it's not growing quite as fast as I would like to see. What can I do to make this expand a lot faster?
Well, I would say that the fact that you still continue to be consistent is probably the key. So that would be the key, is continue, because you never know when you'll have the hockey puck growth. I also would say like collaborating with other podcasters so you can cross over each other's audiences. That can help you grow pretty quick, because when you cross over, you get exposed to a new audience. Then other people get exposed to you that weren't a part of your original audience. I think collaborations and crossovers is the key. And that can, if you do that consistently, I feel that can help accelerate growth at a moderate pace.
And you've been podcasting how long?
So I first started my first podcast maybe back in 2007 or 8. Then I had another one. That one kind of paused midway through the pandemic. So I'm kind of on my third podcast. So I would say now it's probably been a good 17 years going on, probably 17 years, almost different types of podcasts. Absolutely.
When you started out, what was your podcast about?
My podcast, it was called The Mirth Nadir Show. So it was love songs and dedications. So people would call in, or really they would call a recording, leave a dedication. I would play that recording, play a song, and that would be the show. And then eventually that show kind of evolved into also interviewing artists. So I interview artists that were kind of independent or up and coming. And I did that show for a while. Then I paused it. Then I had my own podcast, the Amani Experience podcast, where I would interview professionals that were working a variety of professions and talk about their journeys, things like that. I did that one for a long time. And then I paused that one kind of midway through the pandemic. And then I started another one with my colleague Mandy Graziano, where it is Adventures in Business Live, where we talk to kind of people in the hospitality industry, speaking industry about their businesses, kind of C-suite level. And another interview kind of, but this time it's with a partner, which is a really good change for me.
What would you say is the biggest mistake people make when they first get into podcasting?
They stop. So I think the average podcast, I think, has like 6 episodes. Like most people can't get past the seventh episode. If you can get past the seventh episode, that's a good landmark. And then if you can get past the 23rd episode, I believe, then that's another one, because most podcasts don't last past the episode 7. So I think the biggest mistake people make is they stop, and also they expect to have this astronomical growth right away. It is a long grind. It's a long game, but eventually, if you keep at it and you're consistent and you continue to improve your sound, your video, your production, promotion, you'll grow. And also, I think that initially, when you start, you should start to collect email addresses right away, because you don't want to depend on any platform as like your home. You want to try to capture as much data and email as possible, because as we know, platforms go away all the time. So you really need to try to own as much of your audience as possible.
So when you do DJing on I guess on a live stream or a podcast, how do you or how are you able to play music if it's copyrighted?
Yeah, that continues to become more and more complicated. And I think it was a little under a year ago, Twitch made a big change where you had to kind of opt into a different type of program where they were compensating the labels and the artist. So previously it was kind of the Wild Wild West. It's getting a little bit more structured, I'll say strict, nowadays, where they at least funnel some of the money through the labels. Now, does it get to the artist or not? That's a whole different question. But it's a little bit more strict now, and for particularly YouTube will take it down, or YouTube just will monetize it. So whatever artist you're playing, they give them the ad revenue or whatever revenue that is occurring, which is probably the best model. YouTube probably has the best monetization because they put it all on the artist, or whoever owns the proper publishing or whatever, they give it to that person. So that's kind of how we did it. But before there were less rules, now there are more rules, and so it's getting a little bit more strict right now.
Yeah, I'll have the actual artist on my show, and
Yeah.
we'll talk about the music. And now they will give me verbal permission, which is fine and dandy, but YouTube doesn't care what you
Yeah.
said behind the scenes. But I did notice there's a lot of videos they will let me share the revenue. I think I've only had 2 or 3 where I've actually had to take it down.
Yeah.
But if you know the artist, or you can get a hold of the record label, they will give you that what's that number called for the copyright. If you can put that in there, they will let you
Right.
use it.
Yeah, yeah. The getting the artists. It's funny because artists during the pandemic, artists would play their own
Hmm.
music, and would still get tagged and flagged. It was ridiculous, and so it was just very unique. But I think that technology is moving so fast that the record industry, the music industry, can't really keep up. Like, one of the main laws that governs a lot of what happens in the music industry is the copyright law, and that law was in effect in like the 1920s. and so it's still very antiquated, specific aspects of the industry. And so they just are struggling to catch up with all the technology because technology moves very, very fast, much faster than like people who are creating laws and policies.
Right, right. Now, you an expert on R&B music?
So an expert is putting it, I don't want to say expert. I'm still learning, but I do have some expertise in R&B music. I'm a developing and growing R&B musicologist. That's what I like to say because I just wrote a book about it. So I did a lot of research and I do know a lot. Yes.
How far back do you go?
In this book, The Quiet Storm, it's called A Historical and Cultural Analysis of the Power, Passion, and Pain of R&B Groups. We start in the 1950s, and we highlight the top 10 or 11 R&B groups from the 50s, each decade up through the 2000s. So we take the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. Then we talk about why the R&B groups have disappeared and what could happen next.
Who was the top 50s R&B group?
Ooh, in the 50s, the one that jumps off the page to me that I remember the most is Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
probably one of the more popular ones for the 50s. The Penguins were also very popular. Those were probably two that really jump off the page that I remember the most.
Who would be the 60s? Because there was a lot of great groups came out
Yeah.
of the 60s.
The 60s, I love the Supremes.
Hmm.
Also, the Temptations were in the 60s. The Isley Brothers. Now, the Isley Brothers, they're like a unicorn because they were popular in every decade 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s. They had Billboard Hot 100 hits in each decade, which is unprecedented. And so they were in the 60s. Temptations, Four Tops were very popular. Those were, and even the Commodores. The Commodores started to kind of percolate, and Gladys Knight and the Pips in like the 60s.
Didn't Jimi Hendrix get his start with the Isley
He
Brothers?
sure did, yes, and actually lived in the basement with the Isley brothers, one of the Isley brothers, the brothers, for a while. Yes, exactly. That's a not a common fact, but good on you for knowing that one.
Oh, a huge Hendrix fan, but I love all that music from back then. There's something about that sound that just it goes above and beyond. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm into all kinds of music, the classic rock, and
Yeah,
I grew up in the 70s, so that rock and roll from that era, and then the 80s come around, and I got into heavy metal and that kind of thing. But that's my go-to.
yeah, yeah. Great.
Temptations, Four Tops, the best.
Yeah, yeah, for real. I agree. I love R&B music. Doing the research was amazing, life changing, and I'm just trying to kind of spread the word and just have conversations like we're having about kind of the history and the groups like you're asking and what happened. I think that just lights me up.
See, we could have a podcast just talking about the music.
We certainly could. Yes, we could. Absolutely.
Have you got to meet any of these guys?
So that's actually a really good question. So I put out the book. The book came out a couple months ago, very recently. Now the goal is to try to meet as many of the acts as possible, interview them, get their perspective, and turn the book into a documentary. And that's kind of the next step in the process to do it. So that's my goal, to try to meet as many people as possible, interview them. And there's like a sense of urgency because as each day goes by, we get older and some of them pass away. We just lost a member of Tony recently. And I think
Hmm.
we've lost both members of Sam and Dave. So people continue to kind of, unfortunately, pass away. So I want to try to interview them before that happens so we can get their pure and unedited thoughts on tape before, as we go along the process. So that's like the really big goal next. The first goal is get the book out. We made the USA Today's bestsellers list on launch week, which was phenomenal. So that shows you that there's a market out there and people are interested in learning more, and that's very inspiring.
But we got to keep that music alive.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Now, do you have a website?
I do. So it's AmaniExperience.com, and Amani is A like Apple, M like Mary, A like Apple, N like Nancy, I like ice, the word experience. And you can go there. You can find links to the book. You can learn more about me. I also speak. I work with a lot of people in the music industry also. So I help music professionals make better business decisions. And it's really through education, just kind of educating them on the ins and outs of the industry and helping them to decide where they want to go and how to protect their IP.
And where can people catch your podcast?
So the Adventures in Business live, you can catch it. We go live 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. West Coast time, Pacific Standard Time on Mondays. And if they go to adventuresinbusinesslive.com, that's our website. You can find us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, all the places there. And that's where they can find the podcast.
Oh, and our necessary evil in the society. What is your social media?
I love that. It is a necessary evil. At Amani Experience. That's where you can find me on like Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and then LinkedIn is just, if you type in Amani Roberts DJ, that you can find me on LinkedIn for there.
Well, I'll make it real easy for folks, and I will put all your links in the description. But Amani, thank you so much. I would like to welcome you back again in the future so we can just talk about music.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm down to talk about it. We can go decade by decade and tell some stories.
Well, again, thank you for being on the show. I really appreciate it. And I also want to thank all you folks out there. If you are new to the channel, I hope you'll come back. Please hit that subscribe button. For my regulars, you guys are awesome because you make it possible for me to do this. Till the next one, everyone, please take care. Be kind to one another. God bless, saying peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Listen to the Vibes. You can catch us on Buzzsprout or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook at The Vibes Broadcast Network